So this is part two of why the interest in the horror behind horror stories. Okay, so I'm talking about shame and internalized shame. And in this case, it's from infancy. Okay, so there is this baby believing wrongly. It's not truth that this shame is based on. It's a distortion of reality. But the distorted reality that this child internalizes is that I am so unlovable that my parents are willing to let me potentially die at the point in my life when I'm supposed to be the most lovable and the most vulnerable. And at the time when they should be most inclined to take care of me and like even enjoy taking care of me. So there must be something wrong with me. There's nothing wrong with you. So that's a distortion of reality. You are lovable, you are vulnerable, and you should be taken care of. That's reality. Your parents are just dysfunctional. This child grows up in the same environment. Hopefully the parents will come clean from whatever state, whether it's drug addiction, whether it's abuse, whether it's their own chronic shame that they grew up with, and then start to provide care for this child properly and, give the child the therapy it also needs. But let's say the child grows up and they remain in this negligent and abusive environment, because negligence is abuse, right? They grow up internalizing this belief. Day in, day out, it gets reinforced. Okay. So how are they going to, if they don't receive any sort of positive intervention to help them come out of the state of shame, how are they going to behave with people later on in life when they face rejection or abandonment, right? You'll find that this person will be consumed by rage, which will then cause them to enact horrific things either on themselves by self-harming, through actual self-harm, through things like anorexia, eating disorders, and morbid obesity is another eating disorder, induced condition of your body, other disorders like drug abuse, alcohol abuse, that's them inflicting punishment on themselves because they feel so worthless. They've internalized this belief that they are utterly worthless, because if they weren't worthless, if they weren't terrible, then their parents would have taken care of them and loved them, right? But they didn't. The other one is then they become destructive towards other people. And this is the other horror stories. And these are the horror stories that we generally focus on, is when someone inflicts harm on another human being, right? So let's say it's a guy and he is consumed by this shame and he desperately wants to get rid of it, because no one wants to feel ashamed like as a constant feature of their existence. It's terrible. And that's why you would take the drugs. That's why even like, for example, getting involved in relationships with people who use you, even becoming like promiscuous, you're just trying to get validation. You're trying to get someone to tell you that, no, you're wonderful, you're beautiful, you're lovable, you deserve to be taken care of, you deserve to be fed and protected and housed in safety. You deserve all these things. That's what they want someone to say to them, because the people who love them the most denied them that reassurance. Now they are seeking this reassurance in any way, or they are numbing that shame. They are numbing the pain that they are feeling, right? Because sex can also be an addiction. Gambling can also be an addiction. Anything that makes you feel good and validated, to take away that feeling of that shame, that worthlessness, right? So then on the other side, you might have someone who gets into a relationship feeling completely worthless, right? And then what they'll do is they'll basically manipulate the other person into falling in love with them by presenting this perfect prince or princess charming image to the person, right? But anytime they encounter a situation in that relationship where they start to feel like they're about to be rejected or abandoned, it brings up that old shame from babyhood. You know what I'm saying? So they carry it constantly, and it flares up and it's triggered and touched. It's an open wound, It brings up that shame from when they were a baby. And what's also associated with that shame is literal fear of death, of annihilation. Okay, because they were at risk of dying. If their parents didn't feed them, didn't take care of them, they probably also got sick, maybe got digestive issues because of not being fed properly and of sitting in their own, excrement and urine. They got nappy rashes, all sorts of immune issues, from an early age. Probably also when they were sick, when they were a little bit older, they didn't get proper care. They probably didn't get proper nutrition, you know what I mean? So their lives were at risk this whole time. So when they encounter someone who is now, who they had believed, who they had manipulated into giving them the validation that they so desperately sought, when they encounter a situation where they feel that this person's about to reject or abandon them, it literally brings back that fear of death, right? And when they do something absolutely horrific, like kill the person or beat the person into a pulp or burn the person's house down or slash their tires of their car or do something to get them fired from their job, something destructive, something which will injure that other person desperately, right? It's coming from that fear that this person is trying to basically kill me. It's in the subconscious. So, that's why oftentimes these people will say, I don't know why I did that. But it's there. There's a reason why it's there, but it's in the subconscious. They have never dealt with it. And unfortunately, we live in a society, especially in this Western world, in this globalized world, where people are supposed to simply serve systems and ideologies, but are never themselves seen as valuable, never seen as worthy of care. The real care, which would be like in schools, in churches or mosques or synagogues or temples, where children are asked, are you okay? Like in a real way, are you okay? Is anything bothering you? With real care, people are basically seen as just numbers, cogs in a machine who must play the function or get out. There's no care, right? They are tools. They are tools for the system, right? And patriarchy is one of these systems that, or worldviews, that really aggravate this type of situation because people are very much treated based on their utility to the patriarchal system and culture, So if you are someone who grew up feeling ashamed of yourself because your parents couldn't or didn't want to take care of you properly, you probably exhibit the inability to handle rejection and abandonment without totally crumbling, And another thing that happens is that in these abusive families, the parent, okay, so now the child knows that in order to survive, I need to be on my parents' good side. So there's a psychologist called Jay Reed who talks very well about this in this one video, which I need to find and share. But he says that you as a child need to be on your parents' good side so that your parents can take care of you for your survival, right? Now, if your parent is abusive, right, and has been giving you this hate, has been instilling you this shame, right, you have to be in agreement with your parent about who you are in order to survive. So if your parent is telling you you're worthless, you're useless, they're abusing you and telling you you deserve it, and you for survival internalize that as who you are and as the truth about yourself, guess what? You're not going to be someone who's going to go and strive for great things. You're not going to be someone who's going to even be able to accept a compliment from someone. You will experience cognitive dissonance. You will not be able to apply that compliment to your reality because your reality says that the people who love me the most absolutely hate my guts. So how can an absolute stranger see me as valuable? Then you'll justify like, oh, they probably just want something from me. They want to manipulate me. They want to exploit me later on. So it can't be true. This is why some people can't accept compliments. Not like this deep and hectic, some of them, but for some people it is. And maybe there's more subtle versions of this type of thing as to why people can't accept compliments, because the people who should have been giving them the love and the validation are the same people who told them that they were utterly worthless.